All right, so we begin with really widespread reaction to President Trump's speech to Congress. The president said, quote, "America is back." And he is emphasizing his agenda during a 100-minute speech, promising what he calls a golden age for America.
My focus is on building the most powerful military of the future. We've had serious discussions with Russia and have received strong signals that they are ready for peace. I was saved by God to make America great again. I believe that. The golden age of America has only just begun.
Now, CBS News polling shows a large majority of viewers, most of whom are Republicans, you should be aware, approved of Donald Trump's speech. Supporters called it presidential and entertaining. And as you see next to me, only 23% of people who watched the speech disapproved of what they heard. Now, we have full team coverage of all of this for you. We begin with CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi in our Washington bureau, and you can also see CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion standing by. Olivia, let's begin with you. What was your biggest takeaway from Trump's 100-minute address last night?
Well, besides it being the longest address that's happened in front of Congress in a long time, Errol, there were a couple of things that Trump said that certainly caught my attention. Let's tick through them. The first, he said he wants to get rid of the CHIPS Act. This was something he said caught my eye, caught my attention, because this was a wildly popular bipartisan bill to increase chip production in the U.S. for national security purposes and also economic purposes. Trump turned to Speaker Johnson and told him they should get rid of the act and use the leftover money to pay off some of the debt. I'm curious how that will impact especially Republican lawmakers, who this act was very popular in a lot of their districts. He also urged Congress to make his tax cuts permanent, adding that he wants to make American-made car taxes deductible, the interest on American-made cars deductible. He also blamed President Biden, former President Biden, for the high cost of eggs. That certainly caught my attention. Of course, that's something that a lot of Americans have been talking and certainly noticing when they're at the grocery store. Trump says it's not my fault, it's his, and he's doing what he can to bring down the cost of eggs, directing his secretaries to handle that. I do also want to know, he talked about his tariff policy. On his tariffs, he said if you make your product in America, you won't have these tariffs, which can be rather large. I do want to toss to a bit of sound where he talked about how Americans will be feeling the squeeze on some of his tariffs.
It may be a little bit of an adjustment period. We had that before when I made the deal with China, $50 billion of purchases, and I said, just bear with me, and they did. They did. Probably have to bear with me again, and this will be even better. That was great.
And Trump asking Americans there to stand by him, bear with him, as we are going to go into what he's calling an adjustment period, Errol, for these tariffs. That's also code for high prices.
Very good point, Olivia. Thank you for that. Stand by. Nikole, I want to ask you about the Democratic position on all of this, because there are questions as to whether they should react theatrically to what the president was saying or organize against policy. Do Democrats feel that their visual protests last night were effective?
And I talked to a Democratic member before the joint address got underway, and what this member conveyed is that, which is largely what Leader Jeffries conveyed ahead of this address, is that it really kind of is a personal decision, or was a personal decision for members. In the case of the member that I spoke to yesterday, this person chose to attend the joint session and said that they were there to kind of listen and hear the president out, primarily because of the makeup of their district. And so, I think you have to take that into consideration with respect to how some Democrats responded. Yes, some of it was organized in the sense of, many members, for instance, of the Congressional Progressive Caucus had those signs that they were holding up. Some walked out of the speech. Of course, the most notable was the disruption from Texas Congressman Al Green. But, he's certainly been around the block a long time here on Capitol Hill, and he made clear that that he is not concerned about any punishment that might come his way, that he felt that he wanted to stand up in that moment because of what he believes are very punishing cuts on the part of the Trump administration, and potentially more to come when you look, for instance, at potential cuts to Medicaid as Republicans try to debate a larger budget package. So from that standpoint, while yes, some believe that Democrats' actions were disgraceful or may not have been as cohesive as some wanted, at the end of the day, it was an individual decision for members.
And we were just watching footage there of the congressman being escorted out. Speaker Johnson saying he's open to a censure of the congressman if that's brought to the floor. Olivia, we had this CBS News polling, which is only of people who watched the speech, and similar to the room inside, a lot of Democrats chose not just to physically be there, but not to tune in. But from those who watched the speech, they're hopeful about Trump's presidency and his plans to tackle inflation. So what is next on the president's agenda on that front?
Yeah, we should note that our polling from last night reflects that a majority of the viewers of the speech were Republican. They do feel quite hopeful about the direction of the country and what they heard from Trump. You know, he did highlight a lot of lightning rod issues for Republicans, including the anti-trans culture war, targeting of DEI, targeting of waste in the federal government, and really bolstering Elon Musk in that speech. So all of these things, lightning rods for Republicans. They liked hearing it. But you're right, the conversation around inflation and high prices is still something that everyday Americans are feeling. But our poll showed that about 2/3 of people who watched the speech, again, majority Republicans, liked what they heard from Trump as far as tackling high prices. They feel that he had a good plan to handle that. But now the next part of all of this, as we heard from Trump yesterday, he tackled immigration, a lot of executive orders on that, a lot of executive orders on culture war items. But those targeting of high prices, which Americans are certainly going to start feeling now, especially with those tariffs, that's something they want to see action on.
And Nikole, on Olivia's point, you need bipartisanship to get government funding approved. These speeches, typically from one president, include some aspect of reaching out across the aisle to get the business of the people done. What is the latest on a potential government shutdown and an agreement between Democrats and Republicans to avoid it?
Yeah, well, right now an agreement remains elusive, although Speaker Mike Johnson has indicated he will probably move forward with what is called a continuing resolution, which is just basically another short-term funding bill to fund the government through the rest of this fiscal year. That is something that some Democrats are still noodling around. Others just feel that they don't believe that this is the right direction to go. So that is not stopping the Speaker and House Republican leaders from potentially moving forward with this, although no legislative text has really been provided as of yet. You know, the hope is that maybe they can get something out as we get towards the end of the week or the beginning of next week. It has to, quite frankly, if they want to try to clear this Friday deadline. And even if Republicans are able to single-handedly get this out of the House, ultimately it would need some Democratic support in the Senate.
All right, Olivia Rinaldi and Nikole Killion, my sincerest appreciation to you both. Thank you very much.